Quick check of the forecast today. Beautiful conditions, right around 70 degrees. We've got sunshine, a little bit windy tonight and early tomorrow with the chance for some light rain on your Friday, 66. Then this weekend, Sylvia, perfect conditions, sunshine in the upper 60s.
All right. Thanks for that, Caitlin. That's going to do it for us. Thanks for watching Fox 32 News at noon. See you back here on the news at 4.
Edition of Chicago Live. We start this 1 o'clock hour with some breaking news right now. We've just learned that Northwestern University President Michael Schill has announced that he is going to step down after 3 years of leading the university in Evanston. For now, for more perspective on this, we're going to start with our very own Tia Ewing, who is downstairs in our newsroom. Tia, what are you learning about this?
We've learned a lot of information about this just looking at what has transpired really over the years, Brian, in terms of what happened at Northwestern University with Michael Schill. He was in office starting in September 2022 is when he started. And literally almost 2 years later is when he really faced some serious challenges. And that's when we saw that pro-Palestinian campus encampment happen on the campus of the university. And that's when immediately we started to hear calls of criticism against the president. Really, he received a lot of backlash from that. A lot of people felt like he was rewarding or legitimizing anti-Semitic actions on campus. So that's when you started to see Jewish advocacy groups come out, issuing statements right away, calling for his resignation and accusing him of failing to protect Jewish students and really supporting the protesters. And then shortly thereafter, we saw Jewish students file a class action lawsuit alleging a breach of contract and asserting that Schill's response and encampment created what they called a hostile work environment, or a hostile environment on the campus. Now, what we know is then after that, there were so many different things that happened after that. In solidarity, several members of Schill's own advisory committee on anti-Semitism, they resigned and then cited that he failed to seek their guidance on some of the things that were unfolding on campus. And it doesn't help considering what's going on around the country right now, federal funding being slashed. And Northwestern fell victim to that as well. $709 million slashed from Northwestern, and it all tied to this word, anti-Semitism. And then we saw the settlement for Pat Fitzgerald, the former Northwestern football coach, which I think that number was over $50 million. So we expected something to happen. What I think is really interesting is when you look at Schill's response that has been put out there, he acknowledges, he doesn't go into great detail about what those challenges are, but he clearly acknowledges that there has been some challenges. In his statement, he mentions that very word, challenges. I think we all can, really cipher and determine what some of those challenges are, just looking back on the time in which he was in position. What we can say, what we know that will happen, from this point on, is the Board of Trustees, they plan to name an interim president soon. As of right now, Schill will continue his role until that interim president starts, and will work until then to assure a smooth transition. But I think this is one of those things where people that have been watching all of this play out closely, I don't think this is a surprise. I think some people were expecting this actually to come before the school year started. And so here we are now dealing with this. It is unknown at this time exactly who that new president will be. We know that Schill took office from the previous president who had cancer. It was just a really interesting and challenging, he said it in his own words, time that he was in his position. So we'll be watching this closely to see what are the next steps for Northwestern University.
Tia Ewing reporting, as we've just learned, that Northwestern president Michael Schill is going to be stepping down. Again, he's going to stay in that position until the university is able to find a replacement. Schill did say he looks forward to returning to the classroom, also continuing to champion higher education, a cornerstone of American society that, despite its imperfections, is more important than ever to our nation's future. That is what he said in a very short statement there. Now we are going to be joined by Professor Stephen Caliano from North Central College for a little bit more perspective on President Michael Schill resigning from Northwestern University. Thanks so much for your time, Professor.
Good afternoon. How are you?
I'm doing well. Want to start with, what do you think about the timing of this announcement?
Tia did such a great job of going through sort of the recent history of what's been happening with President Schill and what's been happening in the broader context. It's a difficult time to be leading in higher ed, certainly as a university or college president, and certainly one at an elite school like Northwestern University. The timing strikes me as related to the federal court appeal decision that gave Harvard back its funding last night. I think that schools like Columbia and Brown and Northwestern, who either struck a deal or decided not to fight back in the way that Harvard fought back, had some backlash from the faculty for sure and some of the students. Mostly had the support of the Board of Trustees, but and I think President Schill did on that issue as well. But at the end of the day, it clearly looks to me like it was the wrong decision. Not second guessing his decision at the moment or the board's decision at the moment to decide whether or not to push back to sue the Trump administration. But given what we've learned yesterday about how Harvard has fared after they pushed back, I can't imagine that the timing of today's resignation doesn't have something to do with that.
Professor Caliendo, what is the status of the federal funding at Northwestern from the Trump administration?
Almost $800 million has been canceled in research funding from the Trump administration. And that's, you can't just absorb that. It doesn't matter what your endowment is. It doesn't matter what your business model is. No institution can simply absorb $800 million. And as Tia pointed out, there's other expenses that are happening there, and there are expenses that are not centered on academics. There certainly was the settlement that she mentioned, of course, the construction of the new football stadium. Again, not to criticize that. There's probably good reason to do those things. But the optics when they're spending there, and then there's academic funding that's been cut by an administration that's been openly hostile toward higher education generally, and then the reluctance to sort of fight back to hold on to that funding. And then I think it feels to me like the final straw that Harvard, who did decide to fight back, got their money reinstated, or a portion of their money reinstated yesterday. That to me seems like where the problems are sitting.
So you mentioned Harvard fighting back, and obviously President Schill decided not to do that for Northwestern, which leads me to what qualities or I guess priorities do you think Northwestern is going to be looking for in their next president, given we're in different times in the state of higher education?
It's an unenviable position for the Board of Trustees to be in, honestly, to find a great leader to come in under these circumstances. And I don't say that about Northwestern in particular, and I have no inside information about the school up the street from us that we respect so much. But I will tell you that looking for a president today in the context of what's happening in higher education is going to be trickier than usual. It's always difficult to pick a college president. It's such an important position. And even though the pay is very high for the most elite schools, it's not that high at most colleges, even though it's higher than a faculty salary. But you're talking about people who have a lot on the line. And so to draw them in, somebody who has a real passion for leading in higher education, for fundraising. But now you add on top of that, having to make decisions, very courageous decisions or difficult decisions, how to interact with a federal government and a federal government landscape that is so challenging. It's probably easier in a state like Illinois, which is more or less supportive of higher education than it would be in some other states. But that federal context cannot be ignored, and I would imagine that they're going to look for a leader who is well versed in navigating those types of waters. But these are really unprecedented times, and they're going to need a unique leader to pull them through.
And President Schill was on the job there for about 3 years, leading the institution. When we look back over time, what do we think his legacy is going to be? Is it going to be tied to some of these controversies that we've seen in the last 12 to 24 months or so?
It's hard to tell. College presidents' legacies are often defined generations later. It's a short tenure. Even in modern times, college presidents typically don't last more than 5 or 6 years. But 3 years is even by today's standards a pretty short tenure. Lots of accomplishments from Northwestern University that they can brag about in terms of what their students have accomplished, what their tremendous faculty have accomplished, both in terms of teaching and research in that time. But looking back on a 3-year tenure and the way that he had to resign under the circumstances under which he had to resign, it's hard to imagine in the near term that he will be fondly remembered. But I think in the longer term, it's easier with hindsight to see a lot more of the positives after some of the immediate difficulty dissipates.
In a situation where a president of a university resigns, is this kind of a situation where the Board of Trustees already maybe has an inkling of who they would want to fill that position before they make a move, or is this maybe something where they just completely start fresh?
In the way that I read the press release is that they're going to name an interim president, which means that they had an understanding, whether it was number of hours or number of days, that President Schill was going to resign. I'm certain that they have somebody in mind for the interim role. It's not unique that they didn't announce that immediately. They want to give some time for this news to settle, and then have a different news cycle. And the news cycles are not the way they were when we were kids, right? The news cycles are a lot quicker, but have a more positive outlook about who the interim president will be. My guess is then they will enlist the services of a firm to do a full nationwide search for the next president of Northwestern University. But the interim leader will be picked by the Board of Trustees quite quickly. President Schill has indicated he's going to stay on until that interim leader is named. It could be weeks, but my guess is it will be days.
All right, Professor Caliendo from North Central College, thanks so much for your time and perspective this Thursday afternoon, as we have just learned that President Michael Schill at the University of Northwestern University has decided that he will resign. Thanks again so much for your time.
Good to be with you. Thank you.
All right, time is now 1:12 on this Thursday edition of Chicago Live. We'll be right back after a short break. Personnel, and you can actually see somebody up there in the tower up there as we're kind of like spinning around to see what's going on there. Again, this is a live picture from Mesa, Arizona, where we've just learned that a worker there was struck by a light pole. You can see it looks like a couple of people are there at the top of those lights. Again, for a little perspective here, the Chicago Cubs used to hold their spring training here for years. Again, we've just learned, looks like there's maybe 3 or 4 people up here in the lights there. Again, we've just learned that one of the workers there has been hit by a light pole. We will definitely continue to keep you updated as we learn more about that live picture from Mesa, Arizona this Thursday afternoon. All right, now we're going to bring it back home, and we're going to take you now to the largest Fiestas Patrias Day Parade and Festival in Waukegan has now been postponed due to some concerns over ICE and U.S. immigration officials. We've been telling you about they're making their way potentially here to the Chicagoland area in the next couple of weeks or days, and we're already starting to see some of the impacts of that. We're speaking with Uriel Vieira, who is here to give us a little bit perspective of why they decided to postpone this festival. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you. We postponed because early morning yesterday I was heading to work and I stopped by a gas station right by 41 and 137, and we had two squads of immigration there. So, and I had in my car and mechanic, so I was driving the mechanic's car, and they stopped me because that was an old man. But when they saw me dressing up like I going to work and I wasn't like construction guy, so they let me go. They just said good morning and they told me where am I supposed to be driving for. So I tell them to work. They asked me why I'm driving that vehicle. It was like, well, this is my mechanic driving card. So, and right away we had a meeting in the morning with the board, and we headed up a conversation with police department, North Chicago, Waukegan, and they agree we should be cancel the parade to make sure that all our community be fine, not to not to make them come out to the streets, because every year we got between 10,000 to 20,000 people coming into the parade. So that's why we kind of like we try to be stay inside on home.
What was it like for you, and what was kind of going through your mind when you initially got approached, I guess, by these immigration officials?
Well, through my mind went right away to all I've been seeing in the news about California. So, but they were so nice. I mean, they were polite and everything when they saw me dress up, because I work in a grocery store. And I am one of the managers there, so I'm dressing up. So they go like, "Oh, you're not construction?" I was like, "No, I'm going to work." So, and I work in Lake Forest. So when they heard the name Lake Forest is one of the cities, I mean, known for rich people. So they go like, "Okay, go ahead. Good morning, and see you later then." And so I just drive away. And but right away when I saw them, I was afraid. I mean, I am a USA citizen, but you never know. I mean, I look like Spanish guy, so I was afraid about they take me away or something. So I called my wife right away, and I just let her know what happened, and it was like, I'm okay. So that's why I called the board right away. It was like, you know what, two squads, they were in the gas stations, so we should be do something about it. So they called the police in North Chicago, Waukegan, where the parade is supposed to be passed through, and they agreed to just behave and cancel the parade, because the place where they sitting down is only about 5 minutes away from Waukegan in North Chicago. So we don't want to get our people in that situation.
Now, this parade is typically about 3 miles long, and we're talking about hundreds of food and, I guess, item vendors. What has been their reaction when you had to break the news to them that you guys are going to be postponing this parade?
Well, everybody agreed, because they know, I mean, if anything happens, a raid or anything like that, I mean, won't be no more people in Waukegan, and we don't want no disturbs or anything like that. So everybody agreed. They said, well, that's the best call you guys did. I mean, we were worried about it, but they were like, okay, we're going to do it. But when we agreed to, we didn't agree just that the board, that was with the community. So we asked them. A lot of people say, you know what, let's do it next year, or we can move it to a different date.
And when you move it to that date, what do you need to see in order for, I guess, people to feel safe to come out?
Well, probably after they leave, because they said they should be here from September 2nd all the way to the 30th of this month. But we'll see. All depends what we see in the Navy. If we see they go away, or they got list of people in the streets, we can do it. But so far right now, we just hold it we put it on hold maybe a month to 2 months, or maybe not to next year.
And what are those, I guess, conversations like in the general community there, knowing that ICE officials and U.S. immigration officials are kind of making their way around that area? Are people, is it changing their day to day as far as maybe going to work or to the grocery store, picking up kids and things they do on a regular basis?
That's right. This changing right now. Like the day yesterday in the afternoon, they were just, stopping people riding up Lewis Avenue and what was the other street? Sunset, I believe. They were in one of the stop lights, checking, stopping. And if you go right now to the stores, Spanish stores and American stores, anything like that, Target, you will see lease cars. People is right now inside the houses. They know they don't have to open to anybody the doors. So right now, you go to the streets, you don't see that many cars right now in Waukegan or North Chicago.
Now, Yuri, I'm not sure if you're a parent or know some other people who could be parents in the area. What are they telling their kids about this? Because, I mean, these kids, especially if they're older in high school, maybe some of them drive to school or things of that nature, and they could potentially be stopped. So what would be your advice to them?
Well, they don't have to do anything like open their mouths if they got stopped. Just, if they asking question first name or anything like that, you just tell, who you looking for. You never give your name or anything like that. If they try to open the doors or anything like that, we agree with the police department. They will call 911. They will come out, make sure they not doing anything bad toward neighbors or to anybody in the streets. Police is gonna be helping. They're not gonna get through anything or get in a fight with them. Just they're gonna make sure if they got any letter from court or anything like that, but they should be not disturb any members of our community.
All right, Uriel Vieira, thanks so much for your perspective this afternoon. Again, the largest Fiestas Patrias Day Parade and Festival in Waukegan is being postponed due to some of the concerns over ICE and U.S. immigration officials, as he was just explaining, are making their presence known in that general area. Again, that parade was supposed to take place on September the 14th, but now it has been postponed for at least a couple of weeks. They could think about doing it, restarting it again when things potentially die down, maybe sometime in November. All right, time is now 1:22 on this Thursday. We're now taking you back live to Mesa, Arizona, where fire crews are working to rescue a worker who was actually injured while changing lights on this light pole at the stadium there. Now, the name of that stadium is the Ho-Ho-Cam Stadium. That is in Mesa, Arizona. If you're familiar with that name, it's because that is where the Chicago Cubs used to hold their spring training practices. So around 10 o'clock this morning, emergency crews there, they got a call about a worker who was changing some lights when he was struck by one of those lights and had a kind of a gash over his head. Now, due to that injury, as you can see, they were so high up in the air, it didn't feel like he was going to be able to make it back down to the ground on his own. So crews there are in the process of helping him get back down. So far, still waiting for a couple of more details. Looks like there's maybe 2 or 3 people who are trying to help that worker who got a gash on his head. Who knows what he's kind of dealing with in this situation. But again, didn't feel comfortable making his way down there on his own. As you can see, the A's in the background. So looks like I guess they're not the Oakland A's anymore. The A's who will eventually be playing in Las Vegas. Perhaps they're using this stadium for some of their minor league activities or spring training as well. Looks like we lost that shot a little bit there. But again, time is now 1:24 here on Chicago Live. We got a lot more to get to this afternoon. We'll be right back after a short break. Welcome back to Chicago Live. We're taking you back out live to Mesa, Arizona, where a little bit earlier this morning, a worker there was changing lights on the light pole in this stadium when they were hit by one of those lights and had a gash across their head. Again, that worker, it looks like it's kind of making his way to the ground now. Finally, it's been up there since about, 10 a.m. Arizona time. I'm not sure if that's mountain time out there or not. Again, didn't feel comfortable making her way to the ground, but it looks like thanks to the Mesa Fire Department and some crews, they were able to make it to the ground safely. Again, this incident happened at the Hohokam Stadium, which is actually where the Chicago Cubs used to hold their spring training. Saw a couple of pictures earlier. Looks like the A's organization in Major League Baseball, I believe they're playing right now in Sacramento, eventually moving to Vegas. I believe like they are using that stadium for the time being. Looks like fire crews are kind of loading up this this worker. Can't tell if it's a male or a female onto a stretcher to, maybe just check on them and see how they're doing. But again, due to that injury and that gash across his head, actually it is a he. The worker did not feel like he could make it down and climb down from that very tall light pole that you see there. He was trying to change one of the lights, and I guess one of the lights fell and hit him in the head. So he's got probably a nasty gash. But thankfully, thanks to the Mesa Fire Department, looks like he was able to make it down safely. That is what we like to see. Again, time is now 1:28. Rejoin.
What up?
But my guy T. Lee, man, first time for us.
I'm up here only so people know we're not the same person.
We're not the same person.
Stop
right?
confusing
the
us,
hair's a little
please.
bit similar, but yeah.
It happens way too often, but it's a compliment. I never take it
For sure.
in a bad way.
So you got a story running tonight
Yeah.
on singer Jojo's performing this weekend. Tell us a little bit about
You
it.
remember Jojo, right?
Back in the day.
Leave, Get Out,
Yeah.
2004. Came up with her first song when she was 13. A 13-year-old singing about a cheating boyfriend, but I guess it happens.
Right.
But yeah, she's singing at Taste of Chicago this Saturday. She's headlining. She'll be on the Grant Park stage at 7 p.m. So we talked about just about everything: her set list, her career, the struggle she had with her label.
Yeah, tell us a little bit. What did she share on that a little bit?
Well, first of all, I always like to start my conversations with musical artists. If you could choose one of your songs or anyone else's to describe your mood today and how you're feeling, what song would you choose? So I present that question to you. What song would you choose?
Ooh, I would.
And I hope it's not DMX standing up because then I'm walking away.
I'm trying to think. What song would I pick to change my mood today? I feel like I'm thinking something Usher.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't know why. I don't know why You Remind Me is in my head right now.
Well, I'm no psychiatrist, but that's got something to do with a relationship.
Well,
Anyway, but yeah, mine would probably be I'm a Survivor. Because I made it in today.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want to come in today.
Okay.
But I'm here. But no, we talked about, she did a viral performance of one of her newest singles called Porcelain. It's a deeply personal song, very intimate about feeling broken, but then putting all your pieces back together, like porcelain.
Yeah.
She did a performance in New York. It was a day of thing. They just grabbed people off the streets. People walked in and said, I can sing and I want to be a part of this. And they formed a choir.
Wow.
Of perfect strangers singing in perfect 7-part harmony.
Wow.
Which our producer Jim told me yesterday. He didn't know that 7 parts harmony was a thing. But when you hear this choir, you realize it's a thing. But they learned the lyrics to the song in an hour and boom, started a performance. I had to ask her about that.
Yeah.
And she said it was really hard to hold back tears. And it's hard for her to hold back tears when fans tell her what that song means to them. So I shared to her what the song meant to me as well. But she said her set list is going to be good for newcomers to her music, but also her day one fans. So she's going to be singing Leave, Get Out, a song about a 13-year-old boy cheating in middle school.
And now she's in her 30s.
And now she's in her 30s. So, yeah, we went into the growth and how she looks back on all that time and the controversy with her label and where she is now. She's done a lot, been in a lot of movies. She just recently had a stint on Broadway playing Satine, the lead role in Moulin Rouge.
Wow.
So we talked about how that changed her. She was on Masked Singer as well, and of course, being a Fox show, I had to ask her about that. So I asked her, like, what parts of, she was the Black Swan, what parts of the Black Swan still show up with her when she performed. So the conversation got very heavy. So I was like, you know what, let's step back, let's have a little fun, let's play a little game. So I played it off of her song, Leave, Get Out, but like hot food takes. So foods that cause the biggest debates, and you probably already know what the number one food was, but either she would say it can stay or leave, get out. And I thought she was just going to say
Chicago foods,
leave
or?
out. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
But she sung her song and said leave, get out to answer me. So I brought some of the foods up that I had with her just to see what you would say. Number one, ketchup on a hot dog. Stay or leave, get out.
It can stay.
I agree with you. I agree with you.
It can stay.
I always say don't yuck someone else's yum. And I get it. There's already a tomato on the Chicago dog. But
if I'm having a Chicago dog, no, but just a regular hot dog.
Relish and mustard?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm good.
This is a bigger one for her because she's from Boston, so I had to put a New England spin on the game as well. Hot or cold lobster roll?
Hot or cold? Room temperature. I don't want either one. I don't like my food. I don't need it piping hot, and I don't want it freezing cold.
But she threw me off because she said she likes the meat cold, the lobster meat cold, but the roll hot.
Warm.
And I said I never had it like that.
I
So I thought I'm gonna try that.
I can see that being good.
With a little honey lemon butter on it.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm making you hungry. Pineapple on pizza.
Nah. I'm okay with it. Like, I won't order it. It's one of those things. We work in a newsroom, so like if the pizza's free and it's here, and there's some pineapple and chicken. Okay, that's fine.
Have you ever had pineapple and bacon though? Together?
I have had that.
Okay,
that was pretty good.
That's bomb. All right, 'tis the season. Candy corn.
No, absolutely not.
She said the same.
Absolutely.
She said put it in the trash along with the peeps.
Who's right? Peeps too. Yeah. Who's keeping them in business?
Your Good Day Chicago co-anchor loves them. Natalie Pomke is. Yeah, because anytime I bring them up, I get like an email or a text from her like, "Stop dragging candy corn. It did nothing to you." Pumpkin spice everything.
I don't do the pumpkin spice. No. I don't even like pumpkin pie.
Yeah, no, I don't like pumpkin pie.
Yeah, I don't
either.
like pumpkin pie or sweet potato pie, but that's a whole nother.
You don't like sweet potato pie either?
Nah,
Is it the texture?
It just doesn't taste like much to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
The last one, cilantro.
Yeah, could I put it in my guacamole?
Okay.
But outside of that,
so it doesn't taste like soap to you.
I feel like I put it in my guacamole because you're supposed to.
Yeah.
What is it actually? Is it adding texture or color?
It's just there
maybe?
for color, right?
Yeah, a little color.
Okay. Yeah, but you basically had some of the similar answers
We got similar
as
food
Jojo.
tastes.
So you got something in common with Jojo, Brian. There you go.
So what time is the story running?
Runs tonight 4 o'clock in our 4 p.m. show. And the editor just finished it. Usually my stories are like 2 minutes long. This one is a 5 minute 30 banger. So it's a remix. We'll call it that.
All right, T. Appreciate your time,
Yes, sir. We are not the same.
Right, we're not. All right, time is now 1:34. We'll be right back on Chicago Live. Welcome back to Chicago Live. We just showed you a few moments ago in Mesa, Arizona. There was a worker who was hit in the head by a light that he was trying to fix at the Hohokam Stadium. That's actually where the Cubs used to hold their spring training. Looks like they're having a press conference after that worker was rescued and brought back to the ground. Let's listen in.
It can extend any farther, or is that as far as it goes?
That's as far as that ladder goes. Every ladder comes, depending on what you order, can be bigger. We have 105-foot platform ladders, and that's kind of standard across the valley here. But we can only increase that by getting closer, because there's no actually physically increasing the reach of that ladder.
Can you describe kind of what went into this? We saw some crews climbing up, and then obviously he was brought down, lowered him down.
Yes, sir. We did a team-based rescue, which means the controlling that descent isn't happening with the rescuers up at the top of the tower. All that's being managed by rescue technicians on the ground. We put 3 people in the platform ladder and cut that distance off for climbing, raised them up. 2 technicians, rescue team 1 and 2, went up to capture the patient, make sure his rigging, everything is tight, ready to go, hook our rope systems onto him. And then once we take positive control of the rescue package, which means his total body weight is now captured and suspended on our system, then we wait for our technicians at the top of the tower to basically say go, and we start controlling that descent from the deck.
These types of situations are not really that common. How do you all prepare and train for situations like this?
So we train across the valley together. We all take the same 200-hour technical rescue training class. That's not all valley firefighters do that. Those are specialized trainings that are strategically placed all around the valley here. They go train every week on one discipline that they're responsible for. So all year long, they are constantly training every Monday and every Wednesday on hazardous materials and technical rescue across the valley.
You said it was equipment failure that led to the injury. Can you go into specifics at all?
I know their employee was in a Class 3 harness. That requires different webbings and rope systems and appliances to help facilitate his climbing. Something in his rigging failed, whether that was tension or hardware failure, I would be speculating right now.
Oh, so it wasn't like a light fell on him?
No, sir. No, it would be something, a piece of equipment striking me in the forehead.
Obviously, you guys have, a playbook for stuff like this, contingencies and whatnot. The way you guys execute is like.
And you were just listening to a press conference from Mesa, Arizona, where emergency crews, they rescued a worker who was injured while he was changing lights there, received a gash on his head and did not feel comfortable scaling his way down. This happened at a baseball stadium there in Mesa. It's called the Hohokam Stadium. Give you a little bit of perspective. That is where the Cubs actually used to hold some of their spring training outings years ago. Again, thanks so much for joining us on Chicago Live. We've got a busy show for you. The time is now 1:40. Now we're going to head out to Lombard, where we are joined by Gail Gleesman of the Yorktown Center. They got a very big redevelopment program. She's joining us this afternoon to tell us a little bit more about it. Thanks so much for your time, and thanks for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Good afternoon. Yeah, we have a lot going on here at Yorktown Center. The property is undergoing a major redevelopment with the second phase of residential that we are currently underway on. It includes the addition of new restaurants, retail. It truly becomes a live, work, dine, play campus, all in one campus.
Now, where we're seeing so many other, malls and kind of shopping centers closing all over the country, what's happening there where you guys are kind of heading in the opposite direction? Instead, you're investing more?
Yeah, we're really evolving retail for evolving real estate for the next generation. We are transforming the traditional shopping center experience and really, again, creating a retail hub, if you will, and introducing amazing brands such as, we recently opened Dave & Buster's. We have Empire Burger, Ancho and Agave restaurants, our newly opened Giamia restaurants, and then adding in everyday needs, right? So like the fresh market as a luxury grocery concept that really is going to become a staple as we introduce the residential component as well. being able to have that everyday needs concept as well.
Fresh Market is one of my favorites. I get the little big meal every week for myself. What do you envision these residential units and this green space? How is that going to completely transform, I guess, this area?
Yeah, with the addition, so Yorktown Center, first and foremost, very family oriented. We are dog friendly. We highly encourage people to bring their furry besties with them when they shop. And so this green space really is going to become a community hub, having additional outdoor seating, event opportunities, summer concert series, things like that. Really an activation space, a gathering space for people to have and to be able to enjoy. I think the convenience of having the residential piece, very walkable, very, stroll with the family, take your dog to the shopping center, walk around, eat, shop, and then to be able to go home all within like that same vicinity is amazing.
Could you explain a little bit some of the, I guess, economic incentives that kind of come with building out this new redevelopment and what they mean for Lombard in general?
Yeah, certainly we have a lot of partners. The Village of Lombard in particular has been an excellent partner for us, working in tandem with them to make sure that we are, creating this, again, evolving that real estate for the next generation and making it interesting for residents to live on our campus and our property. So working with them very closely to be able to do this type of stuff. It's important.
All right, Gail, you mentioned that this is phase 2. What's to come in the future, and what's the timeline for when this residential space and this green space is actually going to be finished so people can start, are those apartments available where people can maybe see some of the blueprints or what they're going to look like? Can you just kind of share a little bit more details on the timeline?
Sure. So if you visit yorktowncenter.com, there is a redevelopment landing page with renderings, additional information. We're constantly updating what that looks like, how if people are interested in leasing and becoming a resident, there's tons of information on there. As far as the timeline is concerned, we're looking at late spring, early summer 26 for a grand opening. Again, visiting the website for all those specific details and events.
And what would you guys need to say to build even more on top of this? If this is successful, what's to come next in the future?
Honestly, our, Pacific Retail is constantly staying on top of trends, evolving for the next generation. Other properties within our portfolio are starting to do similar projects and redevelopments. So I'm sure other centers within our portfolio and markets will follow suit.
All right, Gail, thanks so much for your time, providing some perspective on the new Yorktown Center redevelopment happening in Lombard. Really big for the burbs. Caitlin Cody, one of my favorites, is joining us now. Time is now 1:45. Caitlin, I feel like we went straight to the middle of November this morning when I walked out the house this morning. Yeah,
you got your jacket out.
Yeah,
today.
well, not quite the jacket, the vest. That's the first step.
The vest.
The vest.
Sleeveless vest.
Sleeveless vest.
Okay. Yeah. I was telling everybody I wore socks with my Crocs today.
Uh-huh.
Socks with the Crocs. It was cool. 40s this morning. Yeah. This afternoon, it's lovely looking. We're looking out our window right now, just blue sky. It's bright. We just have a few fair weather clouds out there. Temperatures today still going to feel fall-like. We're in the 60s as our high today. Tonight, it's going to get a little bit gusty, and that's going to continue into the first part of your Friday, too. So high waves, really, that's our only weather headline for today. Is a beach
stay
hazard.
Out of the lake.
Stay out of the lake. Mm-hmm. You're not going to want to go swimming anyways, unless you're a surfer in Northwest Indiana. Oh. Throw on that wetsuit and go, but don't do it tonight into tomorrow. Yeah, high waves. So we also have the chance for a little bit of rain. Tonight we could see some drizzle in spots, especially north of Chicago. And then tomorrow, the first half of the day, the chance for some light rain south of the city. And then we get in on the perfect weekend. Fall weekend, perfect for pumpkin, I guess not pumpkins yet, apple picking, apple orchards.
Why not September?
Yeah. So this weekend, sunshine, temperatures hovering in the upper 60s. And then next week we get some more mild weather. So if you're not quite on board with this cool weather yet, 72 on Monday, and then back to the upper 70s Tuesday and Wednesday. So we have a long stretch here of very quiet weather outside of the gusty winds tonight. and that chance for a little bit of rain tonight into tomorrow.
Monday night, big game.
Big
Bears,
game.
Vikings,
Beautiful.
Soldier Field.
Look at
What's
that.
Monday night going to look like?
Well, you know, what time is the game at?
Probably, let's look it up. We can do that on this show.
Sure. In the evening, I would guess 60s. So if you're going to the game, dress like you did early this
Bears
morning.
Vikings game is kicking off at 7:15.
7:15. It's going to be a little chilly.
Gonna be a little
It'll
chilly?
Be a little chilly, yeah.
So
You gonna go?
wear layers. I gotta work.
Yeah.
So I'm not gonna.
Yeah, wear the layers. I mean, lows that night will get down into the mid 50s, but at least it's going to be, you know, dry, quiet outside of that.
And speaking of dry, I haven't watered my grass in quite some time.
Yeah.
Probably a good idea to do that because we're not going to get any significant rainfall
Let
in
it
the next
die.
week or so.
Brian, just let it go. It's that time of year, okay?
Trying to
Pull
be
out your summer
responsible,
flowers and put it in your mums and call it a day. I think it's time for us all to accept that it's
To moving
officially fall.
on to fall. It's my favorite season.
I love that for you.
Yes. Well, Caitlin, thanks so much for your time. Appreciate you.
Anytime.
All right, we'll be right back on Chicago Live. Welcome back to Chicago Live. Time is now 1:50 on this Thursday. We are waiting for a press conference that will be bringing to you very soon. This is a live look as Governor Pritzker is going to be in Berwyn a little bit later on today. He is speaking at Prairie Oak Elementary School. We are expecting that press conference to start. As you can see, a couple of reporters. They're waiting for our governor to make his presence there. We will be bringing that to you live as soon as he gets there. It looks like that should be happening very soon. You can see some of the photographers are already kind of setting up and getting ready for the mayor to make some type of announcement that we're expecting from Prairie Oak Elementary School in suburban Berwyn. That's coming up a little bit later this hour. For now, we're going to take a look at the NASDAQ and the big board. Looks like stocks are trading up over 300 points or so far this day. Looks like it's off to a pretty good start so far on this Thursday. And very related to that, we're going to take you to Washington now, where after a summer recess, our elected officials, they are back in session. Let's take a listen to see what they are currently debating on Capitol Hill.
Plans, Department of Homeland Security, signed by 17 senators as follows. I ask unanimous consent the reading of the names be waived.
Without objection.
Move to proceed to the legislative session.
The questions on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. The motion is agreed to.
I move to proceed to executive session to consider calendar number 293.
The questions on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. The motion is agreed to. The clerk will report the nomination.
Nomination, the judiciary, Kyle Christopher Dudek of Florida to be United States District Judge for the Middle District.
Mr. President, I send a cloture motion to the desk.
The clerk will report.
Cloture motion, we the undersigned senators, in accordance with the provisions of Rule 22 of the Standing Rules of the Senate, do hereby move to bring to a close debate on the nomination of Kyle Christopher Dudek of Florida to be United States District Judge for the Middle District of Florida, signed by 17 senators as follows.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that the reading of the names be waived.
Without objection.
Yield the floor. Absence of a quorum.
The clerk will call the roll.
Ms. Alsterbrooks.
And again, we are taking you back out live to Burren. We are expecting for Governor Pritzker to make an appearance any moment now. That press conference was scheduled to start at about 1:45 our time. Again, the governor is in Burren, where he will be speaking at Prairie Oak Elementary School. You can see a couple of reporters already have their cameras, and looks like they're going to have several questions. Again, Illinois is definitely in the national spotlight, and I'm sure Governor Pritzker will be pressed with some of those questions as well, especially with what is happening with Washington and potentially the National Guard being deployed here to the state of Illinois. Again, we are standing by, waiting for that press conference to happen. We're going to bring it to you right here on Chicago Live as soon as it does, but for now, we're going to return you back to Capitol Hill. All right, and from Capitol Hill, we're now going to head south to South Carolina, where we got some live pictures from a courtroom where a mother there, she's accused of helping break her teenage son out of jail. Let's listen in to the courtroom.
Parents of the child plus the grandmother and the uncle of the child. So whenever I was called, I was told their vehicles and the deceased victims had been found out at the end of Carrington Road.
Okay. Did you go to that scene?
I did.
Once you got to that scene, what did you see?
There were members of not only the Dyer County Sheriff's Department, Lake County Sheriff's Department, Tennessee Wildlife Resource Agency, because it was on their land. But there was also some special agents from the TBI who had also been called to come out and assist me. Once we got out there, I saw the black Charger that was known to be driven by Braden Williams, 15-year-old child, and a white Traverse that was known to be driven by Courtney Rose.
Was anyone inside the vehicles?
They were not.
Okay. What did you do after locating those vehicles?
We had Deputy Hunter Brady walk us around the scene as to what he had discovered whenever he first came upon the scene, and he showed us inside of the white Traverse there was a red brownish stains substances that are consistent with what I know to be blood. And then he showed us.
And let me ask you this: do you know who that white Traverse belonged to?
It was driven. It was known to be driven by Courtney Rose.
Okay. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
And if you drive down Carrington Road, to the left where it kind of comes to a dead end, it's almost like a parking lot where these vehicles were parked. Behind that is whenever you start walking into the woods, same as if you, what the deputy before was talking about, if you cross the road, you have wooded area in front of it.
Now, actually, that was not the courtroom in South Carolina. That was actually a hearing in Tennessee following a quadruple murder where it looks like a suspect was on the run. Let's listen back into the courtroom in Tennessee again concerning a quadruple murder there.
Where the bodies of Adriana Williams and Matthew Wilson were at, and they were also covered with the same type of burlap.
Were you able to? Were they all deceased?
They were.
That you arrived.
Yes, sir.
Were you able to determine the cause of death at that time? Or what? Not a medical cause, but what appeared to be.
The injuries were consistent with gunshot wounds that all four victims had.
Were you able to determine how many gunshot wounds there were?
Not at the time.
Were you able to at a later time?
Yes. Whenever the medical examiner out of Nashville called me with preliminary findings, he informed me of how many wounds and type of wounds that each victim had.
What type of wounds did Courtney Rose have?
She had been shot in the head.
How many times?
All right, you were just listening to a hearing following a quadruple murder in the state of Tennessee. We're going to bring it back here home to the Chicagoland area. Chicago Bears, they will kick off their season on Monday night at Soldier Field against the Minnesota Vikings to kick off the Ben Johnson era. But where would the Bears be playing in the future? Could it be Arlington Heights? I guess we will be waiting to see. Of course, the Bears have bought a lot of land out there. We're going to bring in now our own Paris Schutz, who spent some time this afternoon with the mayor of Arlington Heights. What did he have to say, Paris?
Hey, Brian. Yeah, we spoke with the mayor just in advance of kickoff, and it seems like eventually the Bears will be playing in Arlington Heights. The question is when. I think the big news out of what the mayor told me was the Bears' plans to have shovels in the ground by the end of this year are probably not going to happen. And that's because they say they need this legislation from Springfield before they get moving. And by all indications, they do not have the votes to get that in this fall legislative session where they're going to need 3/5 majority to do it. Then the rules start over next year. They need a simple majority. They have a much better chance next spring. So hold your horses. The Bears are still kind of 3 yards in a cloud of dust here in terms of their momentum in getting this done. Now, he said maybe we do a ceremonial groundbreaking with the notion that eventually they'll get this bill passed and eventually they'll be able to start moving some dirt.
So what does this do for, I guess, the overall timeline of, since there's not even shovels in the dirt yet, is the mayor worried at all about this potentially maybe not actually happening since it's not official just yet?
No, he's not. He thinks it's pretty clearly it's going to happen. Chicago's pretty much out of the running at this point. And, they want this bill from Springfield to what they say would be to give them property tax certainty. So they want the ability to negotiate their property tax rates before they build. So they want to know 5 years out, 10 years out, what they're going to be paying in property taxes every year, as opposed to let the stadium, let the development get built, and then have the property taxes determined. And doing it this way could save them tens of millions of dollars.
Did the mayor there share any maybe perspective on some of the other development? Obviously, the stadium is the big thing, but what else is going to be surrounded by it in Arlington Heights? Have they already started to make some preliminary plans in terms of that?
We're supposed to be able to see some of those plans in the coming months, but nothing has been made public. The big issue here is there's traffic management and infrastructure issues they have to resolve. For instance, there's the Metro tracks that run on the north side of this property. And so if folks are driving in or walking in from Northwest Highway, they got to get over the Metro tracks somehow. So the question is, do they build a bridge? Do they build a tunnel? These are big questions that are going to have to be answered, that the mayor said, we're still in the process of figuring out the best solution to that.
Well, Paris, what else do you have coming up on the Chicago Report?
Well, Chicago Report launches next Monday, so we still have Paris on Politics one more night.
Gotcha, okay.
Tonight on Thursday. But yes, Chicago Report. Tonight, we've got more on the plans to send the National Guard troops here. We're going to speak with Senator Tammy Duckworth. J.D. Vance, the vice president, said no immediate plans to send in the Guard. So we just don't know what the situation is right now. The one thing that the senator says is that no one's communicated with Chicago police. No one's communicated with the senators from the president's office. So everybody's kind of flying blind here. And I think we're going to kind of follow what's happening in these very contentious Senate hearings with HHS Director RFK Jr., who got a grilling from both Republicans and Democrats.
All right, we'll be looking forward to that, Paris. Thanks so much for your time.
All right, you got it, Brian.
And Paris briefly did mention a lot of developments happening here in the state of Illinois. As we've been telling you, Governor Pritzker is speaking at Prairie Oak Elementary School in Berwyn. Let's listen in.
Yes, it appears that they are on the schedule that we had heard. Again, they have not communicated that full schedule to us, although there apparently were some conversations with the local North Chicago officials. Nothing official communication with the state. But yes, we believe that they are going to be fully assembled by tomorrow and then can begin operations after that. And again, we heard that would begin early on Saturday morning, but it's possible, I suppose, that they might begin tomorrow.
And then can I ask just a quick follow-up? J.D. Vance said yesterday that there were no immediate plans to mobilize the National Guard and deploy them. Is that your understanding as well?
They say things day in and day out that it's hard to believe one day. I'd love to believe that. And maybe that's the case. But I will say that, again, part of their kind of nefarious plan is begin with ICE, cause mayhem on the ground, and by doing that, say that there's a need for military troops on the ground to protect ICE. And so that's why I've talked a lot about, for the people who are going to protest, they've got to protest peacefully, not give them any reason to call in National Guard or military troops of other types. And so I don't know if you can believe J.D. Vance, just like I don't know if you can believe Donald Trump from day to day.
Governor, if the Guard does get called up, there are some advocates who have called for you to, in your capacity as Commander-in-Chief of the Illinois National Guard, to order Guard members here in the state not to obey that call. Is that something you've considered or evaluated? What other resources can the state make available to folks?
We're going to immediately go to court. If National Guard or other military troops are deployed to the city of Chicago, immediately go to court. So that's going to be our first line of defense, is getting a court to issue a TRO or other injunction against that activity. There is no way for me to override. State law does not override federal law. So we have to abide by the law. We do that in the state of Illinois. We abide by the law. We abide by state law and federal law, unlike the President of the United States, who often acts in unconstitutional fashions. So we're going to do everything we can, again, to alleviate the challenge on the people of Chicago if, in fact, the President is trying to bring troops into Chicago, military troops. But you know, he has the ability to call in other outside agents and does not have a legal right to call in military troops, but we're going to have to act quickly and have a court act quickly in order to deter that.
Governor, we've got indications that National Guard members from Texas have been mobilized at Great Lakes Naval Station, but are being redirected to New Orleans. Have you gotten any indication of which direction the Texas Guard members might be going?
We have not gotten that. We haven't gotten any information or even intel about a redirection. That's not to say that it hasn't happened. I mean, certainly out of the President's mouth the other day, you know, he suggested that perhaps he's going to send National Guard to Louisiana. I will point out that the governor of Louisiana, just like every governor, has the ability to call out their own National Guard if they should need it. So the idea that a governor would call up the President in order to call up the National Guard is kind of a silly notion, but the President had that in his head. He said it out loud, and I guess it's been amplified.
Governor, what do you make of the President apparently fundraising off this upcoming operation, whether it's ICE or National Guard? He sent out 2 fundraising emails apparently yesterday after this latest thing.
Well, I don't know why anybody would fund an unconstitutional action or have a positive reaction to the idea of the President thwarting the law of the United States. So, you know, I hope that it's unsuccessful. I know that there are, you know, some supporters of his who act in a cult-like fashion in supporting everything that he does, but let's remember, everybody, that the future of our democracy, the future of America is on the line, and supporting the activity of thwarting the U.S. Constitution is antithetical to all of that.
Governor, what about your advice to those who might want to celebrate this weekend, Mexican Independence Day, as those festivities begin? Are you telling them stay home?
I'm telling people to know your rights, be extra careful, and know that there is the possibility that ICE will be on the ground and causing some mayhem. Don't play into their hand. And if you have the opportunity, please protest, pull out your phone, video everything that they're doing, whether it's an iPhone, an Android, whatever you've got, and make sure that the media sees it.
Last question. Governor, you've drawn parallels.
Mentioned that you have activated the National Guard for prior protests when they got out of hand. If the anticipated immigration enforcement triggers protests like we saw in California, would you call up the Illinois National Guard? What is the likelihood of something like that?
Well, again, when there have been challenges on the streets that where local law enforcement is overwhelmed or asks me to bring in the National Guard, I have done that. And I would do that again, but it's not a matter of me just deciding on my own, hey, it looks like we might need them. It's literally listening to the people on the ground who understand what's going on. We're actually meeting the problem where it exists and determining that they don't have the manpower to deal with it on their own and need some help. So that's where a governor will call in the National Guard.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, thanks, everyone.
So we're going to do a group photo real quick right here. Group photo right here. Yeah.
Step back, please.
All right. Looking right here. Looking right here, guys.
I love that one photographer is taking a picture of another photographer.
All right, you were just listening to Governor Pritzker speaking at Prairie Oak Elementary School in Berwyn. He was asked a lot of questions about what will happen next from the Trump administration and potentially sending immigration officials and others here to the state of Illinois. Pritzker did say that President Trump has the right to call in outside agencies to Chicago if he chooses to do so, but he says that the president does not have the right for troops to come to Illinois. That would be something that he would have to actually ask the president to do on his behalf, and he said he's not going to do that. He also says that if the Trump administration were to order anything like this, they would be ready to fight such an order in courts. Again, you were just hearing from Governor Pritzker as he just wrapped up speaking at Prairie Oak Elementary School in Berwyn. Again, time is now 2:12. We'll be right back on Chicago Live. Welcome back to Chicago Live on this Thursday afternoon. Time is now 2:15. I'm Brian Jackson. Now we're going to head down to Florida, where Attorney General Pam Bondi and other officials in Tampa, they're providing an update on some of their efforts to fight human smuggling. Let's listen in.
Blanket with his glove covering his child's face, trying to save his life. In June, we arrested a Canadian-American citizen in New York for charging $1,000 for every illegal alien he smuggled over the St. Lawrence River into our country. One of the boats capsized, killing a family, including 2 children under the age of 3. A few weeks ago, we convicted a coyote in Texas. A coyote, of course, is someone who transports illegal aliens across state lines for money. In Texas, we charged him for charging $30,000 for every 10 illegal aliens that he could get to the Rio Grande. He got an additional $30,000 for every 10 illegal aliens that made it across the Rio Grande alive. That is why we are now expanding Joint Task Force Alpha. It has 5 steps. The task force will now cover our northern border in Canada, of course, and all of our maritime borders. Our incredible partner again at DHS, Christy Nome, and I are expanding this to include our DEA, ATF, and FBI agents to this task force to give us even more manpower. We will receive more resources to prosecute these cases, and key figures in cartel, human trafficking, and transnational criminals. We will strengthen our collaboration with foreign law enforcement throughout this world to protect not only their citizens but ours, and return these criminals to American soil for prosecution. Under President Trump, we have coordinated more closely with our U.S. attorneys' offices to protect unaccompanied children being smuggled into our country from exploitation. One of the task force's greatest accomplishments has been demonstrating how dangerous human smuggling and trafficking are for those being transported. For those who are considering paying to be smuggled into the U.S., it is not safe for you or for your families. These coyotes are coordinating with terrorist organizations, collecting money from them to bring families and unaccompanied children into our country. These operations are getting people killed. Let me be clear. If you smuggle human beings, you will be found, you will be prosecuted, and you will be brought to justice. It doesn't matter where you are. It doesn't matter what our borders are. The limit of where our country ends and another begins, but it does not limit our law enforcement capabilities to bring you to the United States and prosecute you and lock you up for as long as we can. Thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you, General Bondi. I'm sure you, ladies and gentlemen, can see the commitment of the Attorney General to this endeavor. We just want to take a few minutes of more of your time and give you a little bit more detailed flavor of the cases that we have before you and the nature and extent of the horrific crimes that are taking place that General Bondi just outlined. After we finish these very brief comments, it will be open for questions at that point. And just bear with us, and we'll be there very soon. The first case that we're talking about is the case here in Tampa that General Bondi was talking about, United States versus Cabrera, which is 12 defendants, an international alien smuggling ring, and they also engaged in asylum fraud. And why did they do it? They did it for money and money alone. As General Bondi just noted, we have tracked at least $18 million trafficking through their account and laundered through their accounts to pay their expenses, to pay their co-conspirators. This was a profit-making motive that went on between 2021 and today, 2025. How did it happen? They used social media. They went on social media with Cuban individuals to tell them that they could get Cuban individuals and get them visas based on fraudulent conduct by putting their visas, which were based on European citizenship. They had co-conspirators throughout the world to gather these people up to try to get their money to participate in this. And I say co-conspirators. There are numerous co-conspirators. There were thousands of people, aliens listed in their ledgers that they were doing this with. Their ledgers were sophisticated as any business that you will come across. Their ledgers had dates of travel, money owed, airlines used, smuggling routes. How did they do it? They brought these people through charters and commercial airlines through other countries. They put the fraudulent documentation together with these individuals. Of course, as General Bondi just noted, at $40,000 apiece. They spent up millions of dollars flying these people throughout the country before they came back into the United States. They would provide them with fraudulent visas based on the fact that they were saying that they were not in Cuba after 2011, when of course they were. With this fraudulent document, they coached these people once they came to enter into the United States. How did they coach them? They coached them to make sure you tell these people that you're a tourist. Make sure you tell them that you're just here for a visit. And of course, conceal the fact that you had come from Cuba. And then after and when you get into the United States, lay low for a while. Don't make any noise about things. Why? Because at the appropriate time, they wanted you to come forward to seek asylum, being a Cuban national. So they would then prepare the asylum applications, which were likewise fraudulent. So they're preparing fraudulent documents to get into the country, preparing fraudulent documentation to get asylum. And ladies and gentlemen, this was all for money. And it was a sophisticated enterprise with multiple shell corporations being used and transferring money throughout the country. We have uncovered at least 27 known bank accounts with these people to transfer their money between and among each other, pay for expenses and people overseas, and using money to move in and out of their shell corporations to hide it, which is the substance of the money laundering charge. Suffice it to say, the bottom line of this is that it was a business, a criminal business that was set up for one reason and one reason only: to make money on the backs of these people and at the expense of the American people by defrauding them. And in doing so, they passed at least $18 million through their bank accounts. That's a brief overview of the Tampa case. Obviously, it is now open for review because it's no longer sealed. And I will if I can, I want to turn this over to my friend from the Southern District of Texas, Nick Ganji, who will give you an idea of the case that he is going to present from his district. Nick.
Thank you. Madam Attorney General. Good afternoon. My name is Nicholas Ganji, the United States Attorney for the Southern District of Texas. The American people have been told time and time again that insisting upon a secure border and an orderly immigration process somehow lacks compassion. But what the disastrous record of the last 4 years has shown is that an open border is anything but compassionate. And perhaps the most pernicious and cruel outgrowth of our once open border is the rise of the cartel-backed human smuggling industry. And make no mistake, it is indeed an industry. Human beings are treated like commodities, stacked like cordwood in dangerous and sometimes deadly conditions. All it takes is one faulty air conditioner or one wrong turn of the steering wheel to turn a smuggling run into a mass casualty event. The saddest example of this is the 2021 smuggling crash in Chiapas, Mexico, where a tractor trailer carrying 160 people overturned, costing the lives of 50, including children, and injuring more than 100 others. The Southern District of Texas, along with Joint Task Force Alpha, has worked tirelessly to bring justice to those responsible for this great tragedy. Last year, a grand jury in the Southern District of Texas indicted 6 Guatemalan nationals for conspiring to smuggle these victims into the United States. And on December 9th of last year, the third anniversary of the crash, Guatemalan authorities arrested the 4 remaining conspirators who are residing overseas. I'm pleased to announce today that 3 of these alleged conspirators have just been extradited to the United States and are making their initial appearance today in Laredo, Texas, with a 4th defendant on the way. I am grateful to our Guatemalan partners for their assistance in delivering these defendants to us so that these accused smugglers can learn a little bit about what Texas justice looks like. But the Southern District of Texas' work with Joint Task Force Alpha has yielded other successes as well. A few notable examples: we indicted and convicted 14 defendants who conspired to smuggle hundreds of illegal aliens via dangerous methods, including packing them in suitcases, repurposed water tankers, and wooden crates with little ventilation or room to move. We recently obtained pleas from 6 smuggling defendants who, among other things, left a man to die of heat exhaustion in the Texas brush. We indicted and convicted a human smuggler that had transported dozens of illegal aliens, including minors, and then led police on a high-speed chase through the streets of Laredo. And we obtained a 103-month sentence against a former CBP officer who betrayed his oath and took bribes to allow illegal aliens and cocaine to pass through his lane at a port of entry. Smuggling is a wicked and remorseless business, and it has no place in any civilized society, let alone the United States. And the Southern District of Texas will do whatever it takes to eradicate this industry once and for all and to put those responsible in prison for as long as the law allows. So for those considering coming to this country illegally, our message is clear. Don't do it. Don't put your life or safety or those of your loved ones into the hands of the cartel. They do not care if you or your children have access to food, water, or even air to breathe. They do not care if you live or die. And our message to these smugglers is equally clear. You can run, but you can't hide. If you're not already in cuffs, you will be in cuffs soon, because the United States does not forget. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to United States Attorney for the Western District of Texas, Justin Simmons.
Thank you all for being here today. My name is Justin Simmons. I'm the U.S. Attorney for the Western District of Texas. Thank you, General Bondi, for organizing this today. Also want to thank President Trump for the encouragement and the motivation he's given all of us to take down these alien smuggling organizations and the cartels that they work with. You know, Juarez, Mexico is right across the border from El Paso, Texas. And for years, Juarez has been plagued by violence, kidnapping, and murder. Cartels have been warring over that area for decades because it's a key route for trafficking drugs and smuggling humans into the United States. These cartels have no bottom. There is no limiting principle on how low they will go to enrich themselves. We saw an example of this recently in a case where a woman named Susana Guadian ran an alien smuggling organization out of Juarez. She worked with her husband Daniel, her daughter Diane, and Diane's husband Manuel Valenzuela to smuggle children from Mexico into the United States. Basically what she would do was contact U.S. drivers who would come across and pick up these children and then take them back across the border. Prior to being picked up, Susanna would prep these children by sometimes telling them what to say when they got to the POE, the port of entry, or a checkpoint. Other times she would give them THC gummies, as General Bondi said, to calm them and keep them compliant throughout the process. In this particular case, the children that were given the THC gummies were 12, 9, 3, and 2. When CBP recognized when they were trying to cross with this group of children that something wasn't right, they saw it. They realized those children needed some kind of medical treatment. They got a couple of them to the hospital to receive that treatment. They were later diagnosed with THC poisoning. As U.S. Attorney Ganji said, as General Bondi said, these cartels, these organizations do not care about you or your children when moving them across the border. So we're really happy that we were able to get arrest warrants this weekend and get at least 2 of these individuals, Diane and Manuel Valenzuela, off the street. The 2 other individuals, Susana and Daniel Guadian, are still at large, but we will do everything we can to bring them to justice as well. You know, nothing crosses the border without the cartel's permission, and nothing crosses without payment to the cartels. These cartels see children just like they see a kilo of Coke. Dollar signs. That's all they see. They care nothing about their well-being. Additionally, these organizations often use stash houses in American neighborhoods where they will put these aliens that they're smuggling across for days, weeks at a time. This endangers those neighborhoods, endangers those people who live in those areas, and it brings organized crime to Main Street, USA. We will not have it. We will do everything we can to shut down these organizations because it hits the cartels where it counts, in their pocketbooks. That is all they care about, how much money they can make. And it makes America safer for Americans. It makes this place, this country, a place where you as an American can not just survive, but thrive.
And you were just listening to an update from Attorney General Pam Bondi and other officials in Tampa, Florida. They were providing an update on some of their efforts to fight human smuggling that's been done by some of the drug cartels. Again, you were just hearing that update from Tampa, Florida. Time is now just after 2:30 on this Thursday. Now we're going to head out to the village of Elk Grove, where they're going to be hosting a town hall very soon. And this comes following the Ascension Alexian Brothers Hospital recently decided to discontinue both labor and delivery services in Elk Grove Village. We're now joined by Mayor Craig Johnson this afternoon. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So first, give me an update. What was the reaction from the community when they learned that the Alexian Brothers Hospital was going to remove those labor and delivery services there?
Well, people obviously were not very happy. They had great concerns because that's an important aspect of any community hospital. You know, basically from start of life to finish life, you wanted the same community hospital carrying you. And so a lot of people were upset about it, concerned, and worried, is this the only thing that's going to happen, or what else is going to change at the hospital?
And Mayor Johnson, you said that the village is committed to ensuring that the community's voice will be heard on this matter. How are you guys going about making sure that that happens?
Well, one way is tonight having a town hall meeting where the hospital, to their credit, is going to have all their executives there, doctors there, to explain what's going on, what's going to be going on in the future at the hospital. And that'll give us a chance to get the information straight from them. And then we have a second opportunity, and that's when the Illinois State Hearing Board will have a meeting here on the 16th of September from 4 to 7 p.m. at the Village Hall. And that's where the public can go. They'll have 2 minutes to say the statement to the board as far as what they feel about the maternity ward being moved from Elk Grove to Hoffman Estates. So we have 2 chances to be heard. Tonight, hopefully, can answer most of the questions and maybe dissuade some concerns we may have, or it may just fire people up to make sure they show up on the 16th to make sure the voices are heard again.
Now, you mentioned some of these services being transferred to Hoffman Estates. Is that the only option here, or are there maybe future things that could kind of fill in some of these gaps that are going to be left here?
Well, and that's what we're hoping to find out tonight. And that's why this is a critical meeting for my community and the communities around us that rely on Alexian Brothers to be their medical source. So we're going to wait to hear what happened. There's been some minor change already. ENT's been removed from Alexian Brothers. Some other areas have been reduced. Doctors' numbers aren't what they used to be there. So we need to know what's happening, what's the long-term goals of the hospital, and more importantly, how can the hospital meet the needs of this community? Alexian Brothers is truly a community hospital. We've partnered over the years. We helped build a full interchange right outside the hospital doors to assist them. We also have waived tens of millions of dollars in fees and permit costs over the years, partnering with them to help them financially. So we've truly been a strong partner. It's always been a great partnership. We just want to find out what's happening today and what the plans are for tomorrow. And based on what we hear, obviously it's going to be based on what reaction we have and what our future direction will be also.
And you mentioned that partnership over the years. How do you think that this will play out in terms of what's to come for the future here of Elk Grove and the Ascension Brothers Hospital?
Well, our hope is we understand the world of medicine's changed. No longer do you really have in urban areas like this community hospitals. You still may have a community hospital in Nebraska, but not so much around here. They're all part of networks nowadays. So we understand it can't be exactly what it was 40, 50 years ago. But we still want to make sure it serves the community. And serving the community cannot just be a localized specialty hospital. It's got to handle all needs that people have. We understand they can be modified and changed for today's world compared to what's done in the past. But we want to hear how those changes are going to occur, how they're going to meet our needs, and how we make sure they still stay part of the community.
And when this goes into effect, do you have a timeline for when this will start?
Well, the official ruling from the state won't occur till November. So our thought is when this transition is done and complete, might be the end of the year, first of next year. But hopefully tonight, Alexian Brothers will give us a better timeline, exactly how this will go forward if it does go through, and what happens if it doesn't go through. Because the hospital is still going to be here, and we still want them serving the needs of this community.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask that. Once you kind of find out whether this is going to happen or whether it's not, what are going to be some of the, I guess, economic impacts for the village of Elk Grove?
Well, Alexian Brothers is the largest employer in the village. And remember, Elk Grove Village is home to the largest business park in North America. We've got almost 6,000 businesses here in Elk Grove. Over 70,000 people work here every day. So we have a big economic engine, which they're part of. And so as far as the impact, my hope is it's minimal, but we won't know until we hear what they have to say tonight. So that's why anyone interested in what's going on with Alexian Brothers, we encourage them to show up tonight, 6:30, Belvedere Banquets at the corner of Devon and Rowling Road here in Elk Grove. Everyone's welcome. Alexian Brothers, to their credit, is committed to stay and answer every question that people have tonight. And so we're going to hold them to it. We're going to make sure it's a responsible and respectful meeting for all of us, We don't want people getting too emotional about it, but we want to make sure we get the answers we need to have so we know what's going to happen in the future. And remember, all 4 of my children and 8 of my 10 grandchildren were born at Election Brothers here in Elk Grove. So I got a personal vested interest to make sure everything's still serving and meets the needs of the people too.
Obviously, this could be a very hot button topic, and things could get escalated there. What kind of, crowds are you expecting at this town hall tonight for people who are either for or against this?
Well, the thought was it's hard to judge sometimes. When this first came out a month and a half ago, I would have expected hundreds of people to show up. Tonight, we could still have hundreds of people, or we could have 50, 60, 70 people. It depends on people's mindset at this time. We will make sure it's done in a respectful, professional manner. That's why I'm going to host it. I've been married 28 years, so I'm used to working with crowds and making sure everyone works and respect each other. So we're going to make sure it's a good meeting. It's an information meeting. And again, I do compliment Election Brothers willing to come out and meet the people face to face, answer the questions, and answer all of our concerns we have. And I compliment them for that. So I'm expecting a very good meeting tonight. My hope is we all stay civil. We'll make sure, I've been a wrestling coach for 55 years, so I'll make sure everyone stays civil, and we'll make sure we get everything done in the right way.
Mayor Craig Johnson from the Village of Elk Grove, thanks so much for your time this afternoon and for joining us on Chicago Live.
And thank you for having me, and you have a great day.
You as well. Time is now 2:38. We'll be right back after a short break. Welcome back to Chicago Live on this Thursday. Time is now 2:40. We are celebrating 175 years of the People's Gas. We're joined now by David Schwartz, who's going to give us a look at this anniversary celebration. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you, Brian. On this day, exactly 175 years ago, People's Gas became Chicago's very first utility. It was September 4th, 1850, when we delivered our very first flow of energy. We sent gas that day beneath Lake Street, not far from where the Fox 32 studios are located right now. The fuel we provided that day was delivered in wood pipes, and it was used to power gas lamps along the street. The city of Chicago was just 13 years old that day.
We've definitely grown a lot since then. What would you say have been maybe some of the challenges updating some of these old systems since our city is so old?
Well, Our heating system, the pipes running beneath the streets, is one of the oldest in the country. We've already updated it, have 38% of it updated, and now we are ramping up to tackle the remaining 62%. It is heavy work. It is tough work. It needs to be done for the sake of safety, for reliability in the heating system, and for environmental sustainability.
And David,
I would tell you that Chicago's past, present, and future are all intertwined with the work of People's Gas team members. And I'll give you an example related to the old pipes that are now becoming new pipes. This April, our union construction crews dug up and officially retired a section of gas main along Wabash in the South Loop that served Chicago's downtown since the year 1861.
Wow.
1861 was the year Abraham Lincoln became president. The city of Chicago was just 24 years old then. That's a lot of history. But the removal of that pipe that was 164 years old is an example of People's Gas's forward-looking perspective, which is also what we're celebrating today. We're proud of our past and focused on the future. So we are now working to modernize all of Chicago's aging iron natural gas mains from that era and from other eras not too long further on, early 1900s, for example, that are nearing the end of their useful lives. In their place, we will install modern pipeline made of high-tech materials that better weather Chicago's freeze and thaw cycles, which can cause leaks. And that old iron material is much more prone to leaks than the new material we're putting in, which is stopping leaks. So those new pipes, replacing the ones from 1861 and that era, from when People's Gas first started doing business, these new pipes will safely and reliably serve homes and businesses today and for generations to come. So a lot of eras coming together on this day for us, and we're very proud of it. And our partnership with the people of Chicago for 175 years.
175 years is a long time, but the 1900s is a lot earlier than both of our times. I believe you said that so far People's Gas has replaced about just over 35% of those pipes. What does that
38%.
38%. That you've replaced so far. What is the timetable for getting to 100%, and how does People's Gas decide which neighborhoods to focus in? Are you starting maybe like the city center, kind of building out? Can you just kind of give us a peek into how those decisions are made?
The Illinois Commerce Commission, which regulates all of our work, they ordered us earlier this year to complete all of the work, all of the remaining old pipe that is aging and nearing the end of its lifespan, to have it all replaced by 2035. So we've been making plans to do just that, and we'll be getting shovels in the ground in the near future, and we'll keep ramping up for a few years, and then we'll run safely and as quickly as we can to meet that deadline. In terms of how we go about the work, choose where we do it, we have technology and information that comes from, it's science-based. It's based on sampling from the pipes that engineers and experts have actually examined the pipes. And then based on all of that data, they basically risk rank the pipes. In other words, which one is degraded the most, is degrading the fastest, which ones are in that category, and then we put that at the top of the list to do it. So if a pipe has only 3 years of useful life left, we got to get on that right away, right? If another pipe has 10 years of useful life, then we have to get to it, but it can go behind the one that has 3 years of a useful life left. So it's scientifically based, based on data that comes from pipes, really, I believe all over the country. So there's a lot of data there to help us figure out which ones need replacing the soonest.
Oh, that is some interesting and detailed information for sure. David, thanks so much for your time. Again, he says by 2035, they will be replacing all the pipes in the city of Chicago. Currently, they've kind of updated about 38% of those pipes. Also, before you get out of here, David, I wanted to let you know, Jim says hey. Jim says hey.
I worked with Jim in TV newsrooms for a while before my days of kind of being on the other side of it. Jim, hey.
All right. Yeah, I don't know if you can hear him in the background. He said he gave you a hey as well. David, thanks so much for your time. All right.
Great job putting the show together.
All right. Thanks so much. Time is now 2:46. We'll be right back on Chicago Live. Time is out. 2:49. NFL football officially starts tonight. I'll be watching for sure. Cowboys and Eagles, but our Bears.
Yeah.
They're going to be playing here. We got to wait till Monday.
We have to wait till Monday, but you know what? That's okay.
Okay.
Because Monday is going to be the warmest day out of the next 5, and I'm not talking extreme heat either. I'm talking football heat, the kind we like, right?
Yes.
Where the games are in the 60s. We're going to be in really good shape.
Perfect.
Yes. So that cold front that came through yesterday meant business. It was a serious one. So we're having overnight lows in the 40s, daytime highs that are only in the 60s, and we're going to carry that right on through this weekend. But then on Monday for the Bears game, take a look at this forecast. It is going to be stunning.
Ooh.
Kickoff 7:15. And if you're going to be doing some tailgating prior to kickoff, plan for temperatures that are going to be likely in the lower 70s. That's where we're going to top out during the late afternoon.
Sunshine too.
Yeah, a little bit of sunshine toward the end of the day. Of course, we have sunset a little bit earlier these days now that we're getting into fall. But temperatures, again, doesn't get better for football. So kickoff mid-60s. By halftime, we're likely going to be in the low 60s. And then by the final quarter, we're likely going to be right around 60 degrees, but I wouldn't be surprised by the end of the game when, all the fans are leaving Soldier Field if we're actually going to be in the upper 50s. So a little bit of that, football chill.
What are we looking at in terms of wind? Because we know right there on the lake that can impact things on the football field and also for people sitting in the stands as well.
Yes, it definitely makes a huge difference, right? Especially being so close to the lake. But at this point, it doesn't look overly windy, so we're going to have high pressure in control. Typically, when you have high pressure, you have fairly calm winds. So I think that we're going to be in pretty decent shape, especially since this is a night game. I don't know if you've noticed this, but typically in the evening, even if you have a really windy day, the winds will tend to die down
a little
overnight.
bit.
Yeah, so that has to do with something called diurnal heating. But that's a whole nother story for you all But yes, typically in the evening, you start to see those winds dying down. And I think that's what's going to happen on Monday as well. So I think we're going to be in really good shape.
What about for the rest of the weekend? I was telling Caitlin a little bit earlier, I had to put on a vest.
Yeah.
As I was walking out the house this morning, I heard Mike, and he said, yeah, some people are waking up temperatures in the 40s.
Yes.
Is that going to continue?
I was one of those parents this morning. I definitely underdressed my poor child as we were walking to school. I underdressed as well. We were chilly, as you mentioned, in the 40s to near 50 degrees. The next couple of mornings, it's going to be that same way, but high temperatures, really stunning. Yes, we're way below average. Average highs, Brian, are still right around 80 degrees. We're not coming close to that this weekend. We're only going to be in the upper 60s again tomorrow. And then Saturday and Sunday, we're again going to be in the mid to upper 60s. So not super warm, but still really enjoyable. You know, we're starting to move into that fall season.
You can pull out the hoodies.
The hoodies, go to the apple orchard, drink the hot apple cider, you know.
And we're not worried about any rain?
No rain. We have no rain in sight actually until the next chance. Doesn't appear to be until like the middle of next week. And even then, it looks like a fairly small chance too. So we're staying dry, nothing but sunshine.
All right, looks like we got the perfect forecast. Emily Walls, thanks so much for your time.
You're welcome.
All right, time is now 2:52 on Chicago Live. We'll be right back with Sylvia Perez after a short break. Welcome back to Chicago Live. Time is now 2:55. We're rejoined by Sylvia Perez, our food expert.
Yeah, and guess what today was?
What was today?
Today was Chicago Bears Soldier Field food.
Food.
Yes, so every year
Football and food, two of my favorites.
Football and food, before the season starts, they unveil what you're going to be able to eat when you go to the stadium. And I got to say, this year is like 2.0. So apparently, Levy Restaurant Groups, which is a Chicago-based group, that does work everywhere, actually, not just Soldier Field.
Right.
They're
at the rate.
Yes,
for sure.
Yes, they have been taking surveys from ticketed people who are coming to the game. They're sending them surveys saying, "What are you looking for? What would you like?" So they've been listening. So here we go. You ready for this?
Let's go.
And I love this because it's very Chicago themed. Okay. So there's apparently a woman by the name of Molly who family owns Molly's Mac and Cheese, and she was going, "Why is there no mac and cheese for children?" Right. So now Molly's Mac and Cheese is at Soldier Field. Soldier Field now has kids boxes, but some of my favorite things. Are you ready for this? Mr. Beef from Orleans.
Mr. Beef.
Mr. Beef. The Mr. Beef is now there.
Wow.
Okay, Mr. Beef is there. So you can get his Italian beef sandwiches. And then, listen to this. Brisket-topped mac and cheese with cavatappi and white cheddar sauce.
I was wondering, what are they going to put on the mac and cheese?
Yes, right?
Brisket. Ooh.
Brisket. And then even Kraft sausages. But as I said, they're trying to be very Chicago-focused. So one of the mac and cheese with briskets is from your friend and mine, Izzy Adonijay.
Oh, our friend of the show.
Yeah, so Izzy has 3 Chicago restaurants, which you know, the Signature, which is a steakhouse, the
yeah.
Staley, which is a sports bar, and he just opened Buttercup. Do you know about this?
Yeah.
It's kind of a focused breakfast pop-up that was in the steakhouse, and now it's its own place. But it's a bar, too, and it's a Morrow bar, if you like a Morrow.
All
like
in the South Loop, yeah.
Yep, and that's what he was on our show.
He was.
And he talked about trying to like revitalize that area and have
What's it called?
restaurants.
Solo.
Yes, Solo. And have restaurants there that people will go to the South Loop for. You know, get them
it's walking
out that
distance.
way.
Like
Exactly.
you go to the game and then you can
Yes.
just walk right there and you can visit some of his restaurants.
And so, do you remember the position he played? Because I think he was like
defensive line.
Yeah,
defensive
that's
line.
That's it.
I don't know if he was a tackle or an end, but defensive
this
line.
is what I love, though. Can you imagine Izzy, who's one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet, right?
Super great
He
guy.
has become this restaurateur, and he's such a great guy. His restaurants are doing well. He works with a chef who has a Michelin star from another restaurant, Stephen Glanders, I think is his name, and Izzy is creating all these amazing things. So we actually talked to him about what does it feel like to be on your home turf. Serving your food. How cool is that?
So cool. And for an opportunity for the Bears to kind of promote life after football.
Thank you.
It can be an example for some of the guys. They say NFL stands for not for long, so you have to have a long-term plan. Hopefully you've done good things with your money.
He has done.
He's certainly having a great second act for sure.
Well, he's so excited about this. He's like, and he has this crispy fried chicken, and they had a bunch of influencers out today to try the food. And let me tell you, the Bears have apparently scored a touchdown with this new menu. They have gotten the win. And then, do you remember Matt Suey? Okay, so Matt Suey, former Bears legend, he has his own sausages. I think one of them is called the Ansui sausage. Okay.
Ansui.
Yes,
I see
instead
what he
of
did there.
andouille.
Yeah.
Yeah, very cute, right? So there's all these craft sausages, and they're from Matt Suey. So you've got Levy Restaurants, which is a Chicago-based restaurant group. You've got Israel Adonijay. You have Matt Suey. You've got Molly's Mac and Cheese. I mean, this year it's all about Chicago. And depending on which entrance you take, and you know this when you go to the stadium, different foods will be available at different spots.
areas. You got to walk around.
Yeah. So the United Club, have you ever been there? Because I haven't.
I haven't been there.
That's
I've
the
been
bougie
cool
place.
enough. I'm surprised you're getting about it everywhere.
I'm going this year. That is my goal, is to make it, and that's where Izzy's stuff is going to be. But they said they also wanted to kind of give love to the western end entrance, and so they're adding a bunch of different things there. So it sounds like this year, no matter which way you enter at Soldier Field,
you can get
you're gonna have something
good
new
to eat
and really elevated. You know,
we got an elevated team on the field. We got elevated food. Anything that's on your must-try list from what you've heard of what's going to be there this year?
Well, I will say they had the influencers out there who were saying everything was really good, but apparently Izzy's chicken sandwich has a brown butter sauce that it's fried in, and it's also got coleslaw on it. And apparently the combination of all of that is everyone's just raving about how good it is, you know. So I think a lot of people, when you go out there this year, get ready for some, elevated dining, and it's not your typical kind of football menus. But have you noticed, because you're a big NFL fan and football, a lot of these venues now, I mean, the food is insane.
The food is amazing. You got to be an entire experience, and people are going to get their first chance to try this food at 7:15 on Monday. Got Vikings at Bears. Hopefully, our Bears come away with the win against.
Just as we put words inside our schools of hidden voices, just as we have done for others, we must find a way to make this an official holiday for Prophet Muhammad. That is what we must do and continue to accomplish. Because when you do this, you acknowledge the existence of people. Yes. That's the legacy that I want. No one can take that away. And so those who are of the Muslim faith, close to 1 million here in the city of New York, crossing the entire span of the globe, they matter. And when I visited Saudi Arabia, when I visited Jordan, when I visited Oman, When I visit part of the African diaspora and watch the Muslim population there, they truly believe in peace, they believe in forgiveness, and they believe in the prosperity of the countries they are in, and particularly this city. Standing behind me, that American flag is here for a reason. Yes. Because you can love your faith and still love your country. And that's what they represent. Yeah. And so on this 1500th birthday, I want to say happy birthday. Thank you very much. But next year, we should say happy birthday with a holiday that acknowledges the Prophet Muhammad and what he means to the Muslims of this city, of this country, and of this globe. It is so important to be here today and to take this giant step and allow these imams to be here on the steps of the City Hall. Because when you open the steps of City Hall to all, you are acknowledging that you respect all. And so no, I am not part of the candidates that have never been in a mosque. I'm not part of the candidates that have never been in a synagogue. I'm not part of the candidates that have never been in a Buddhist temple, or have never been in a Sikh temple, or have never been in a church. I am not part of that group. I believe in God. And I respect how each group acknowledges their God. And we can't be a city where we acknowledge some and not acknowledge all. That is who I am as the mayor of the greatest city on the globe. And again, happy birthday, Prophet Muhammad. God is great.
بدر علينا من ثنيات الوداع وجب الشكر علينا ما دعا لله داعي يا نبي سلام عليك يا